Hello, I'm Hugh Morgan-Williams, co-presenter of the Brexit podcast with Malcolm Gallagher. Recently, I had the privilege of interviewing Allie Rennison, who is the Institute of Directors' Brexit expert. She's frequently interviewed on the main broadcast channels about what trade deal we might perhaps get with the EU and what it all means in terms of trade, tariffs, barriers, delays at customs, delays at ports. What's it actually going to mean for the average business? Well, Allie is one of this country's foremost experts on that topic. So, let's see what she has to say.
In your opinion, are we going to get a deal or are we not?
So I think in terms of whether the UK and the EU reach a deal at the end of the day, it's probably going to be less of an issue for the negotiators to work out and more of an issue for the Prime Minister to get that deal through Parliament. And the reason for that is that effectively no sides are happy with the plan that she has put forward. So I am optimistic about the negotiators themselves reaching a deal. I'm a little bit more cynical about whether that deal will go through Parliament, and then it's not clear 100% what the implications would be if Parliament votes down that deal. Do we leave without a deal, or do we go back to the negotiating table?
So do you think it's possible that the negotiating period will be extended?
I don't think it's necessarily likely from the UK's end to extend the negotiating period beyond maybe a few weeks. I think the Prime Minister has made that absolutely clear. In fact, both the EU and the UK have said that the issue is not one of more time, it's actually one of making decisions and making compromises. So I don't think it will be extended, and if it is, it will only be for a few weeks.
So what are the implications for the UK of a no deal?
In terms of how I think no deal would manifest itself, how it impacts different sectors, I think one of the biggest issues from a business and a government perspective is that you don't know what all the unknowns are. You hear talk about WTO, World Trade Organization, rules providing some basis for trade, but that only really covers a fraction of the kind of trade arrangements we currently have with the EU. So I think the biggest issue is going to be the unknowns around what kind of delays you're going to get at the border, and I think that's one of the most difficult issues for businesses to model in when they're trying to do their planning.
Consequences of no deal, do you regard the possibility, for example, of flights being grounded, shortages of food and medicines, long tailbacks at ports? Is that a realistic possibility if we have no deal?
I think one of the biggest issues with trying to understand now whether you would have those tailbacks at Dover, for example, whether there would be shortages of medicines and food, is not knowing what kind of action either the government or the EU would take at that sort of last minute to what some refer to as throwing open the border to sort of let that trade continue to flow freely. And that's what I think I was talking about when I referred to the unknown unknowns. Though I would say that, when we talk about the warnings that are actually coming from the port of Dover itself, I think that they should be treated with some kind of seriousness. I don't think that they would be issuing those kind of warnings if they weren't concerned about what's going to happen on day one after no deal.